In the ancient world, before the invention of satellites or radar, how did people know a storm was coming? They listened. They watched. They noticed how the birds stopped singing. They noticed how the animals became restless. The air became thick. The leaves whispered with a strange urgency. The sky took on a color that felt unnatural. The stillness, the pressure, the silence that arrived before the storm. This was the warning. This was the teacher. This was nature saying, be ready. Long before the rain fell or the wind howled, the message was already being spoken. Not in words, but in signs. Those who had trained their senses could understand the message. Those who lived in constant noise and distraction, they missed it entirely. In our modern world, we have lost this sensitivity. We have replaced awareness with distraction, presence with productivity, and silence with stimulation. Most people are too busy to notice what is arriving. And so, when the storm finally comes, when the shift takes place, when the divine test arrives, they are caught off guard, unprepared, and fragile. But the signs were always there. God does not send transformation without first sending warnings. The universe is not chaotic. It whispers before it roars, and it always gives the soul a chance to prepare. You are living in one of those whispered moments. You may feel it as restlessness. You may feel it as discomfort in familiar places. You may feel like something is ending, but can't yet see what is beginning. You may notice that you no longer find peace in the same distractions. You may find yourself searching for answers that you don't know how to ask for. This is the wind. This is the sign. This is the spiritual alert that something is approaching, something bigger than you, something deeper than your mind can grasp. Do not take this moment lightly. The end of this month is not just a date on the calendar. It is a crossing point, a spiritual threshold. What happens between now and then is not about external circumstances, it is about internal readiness. The outer events may seem ordinary, but the inner transformation that is being called for is extraordinary. Most people will look for signs in the sky. The wise look for signs in the self. If God says that something will happen before June is over, it is not a prediction to fear, it is an invitation to prepare. Not with anxiety, not with panic, but with awareness, clarity, and inner strength. This preparation cannot be bought. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be faked. It is a preparation that must be lived moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. Ask yourself, when change arrives, will I be centered or scattered? When uncertainty knocks, will I fall into fear or rise into discipline? When old things are removed from my life, will I cling in pain or release in trust? The answers to these questions are not given in the moment of the storm. They are revealed. And what is revealed is whatever you have been quietly building in the dark. This is why the wind is sacred, because it is the last kindness before the test. It is the final lesson before the examination. If you ignore the wind, you may survive the storm, but you will not grow from it. But if you respect the wind, listen to it, and prepare in silence, the storm becomes your ally, not your enemy. The energy that was meant to break you becomes the very energy that reveals your hidden strength. But understand this, preparation is not dramatic, it is not loud, it is not visible to most people. True preparation happens in the unseen world. It is the discipline to wake before the world does. It is the courage to sit in silence and examine your thoughts. It is the practice of letting go of what weakens you, even when it feels familiar. It is the clarity to guard your energy, even from those you love. It is the strength to say no to distraction, even when your ego craves validation. Many people will dismiss these things. They will say nothing's happening. June will pass like every other month. They will continue in their cycles, repeat their mistakes, and wonder why nothing changes. But the warrior on the path knows that when heaven speaks, you listen, not with your ears, but with your soul. The spiritual path is not about predicting events. It is about preparing for them, so that when they arrive you meet them as a master, not a victim. The wind does not need to explain itself. It does not need to scream. It moves with quiet authority. It touches everything in its path. It shifts the atmosphere without apology. It enters rooms without knocking. And so too does transformation. So too does divine intervention. So too does the moment you have been warned about. You cannot control its arrival. You can only decide what version of yourself will greet it. Will it find you distracted? Will it find you anxious? Will it find you weak? Or will it find you grounded, calm, and immovable? This is the difference between the one who trains and the one who sleeps, between the one who listens and the one who dismisses, between the one who builds and the one who complains. The storm does not care about your excuses. It only reveals your truth, and the truth is this: every moment of this month was either building your strength or draining it. Every choice was either aligned with discipline or sabotaged by emotion. Every interaction was either a lesson or a leak. You are not a victim of what is coming. You are the architect of how you will experience it. This is what spiritual training is. It is not about avoiding pain. It is not about controlling outcomes. It is about sharpening your perception so finely that you feel the shift before others see it. You sense the pressure before it explodes. You respond with grace while others react in fear. You are the stillness in the center of the chaos. You are the fire that does not burn, the sword that does not rust, the tree that does not fall. But this level of presence cannot be faked. It cannot be rushed. It must be earned. It must be forged in the quiet hours when no one is watching, in the small sacrifices, in the unnoticed acts of courage, in the silent disciplines, in the forgiveness that frees you, in the thoughts you do not indulge, in the emotions you choose to master instead of obey. All of this is your training. All of this is your preparation. And now the wind has come. The whisper is growing louder. The pressure is increasing. The signs are everywhere, not in headlines, but in your own spirit. You feel it. You know it. Something is arriving, not to destroy you, but to test the quality of your awareness. To ask you, have you been preparing or pretending? Because when June ends, something shifts. Maybe not in the world, maybe not in the visible, but in your alignment with your purpose, in your clarity about what must stay and what must go, in your courage to walk forward without waiting for permission. This is the doorway. This is the moment. This is the threshold between the version of you that was surviving and the version of you that is ready to lead. But you cannot cross it with noise. You cannot cross it with fear. You cannot cross it with laziness. You must meet it as the wind meets the mountain, without resistance, without apology, with full presence. This is how you rise. This is how you align. This is how you honor the warning that was given to you out of divine mercy, not divine punishment. So listen again, not with your ears, but with your soul. What is the wind saying to you? What is the lesson in your restlessness? What is the invitation behind your discomfort? What must be released and what must be sharpened? These are not small questions. They are sacred ones. Because when the storm arrives, when the test appears, when the silence breaks into transformation, you will not have time to prepare. You will only have time to respond. And how you respond will be the echo of every choice you made in secret. So take these final days as a sacred gift, not because of what you fear might happen, but because of who you are being called to become. And remember, the wind always warns before the storm. The only question is, are you listening? When the winds shift, when silence thickens, and when the world seems to pause with a strange tension in the air, most people do not listen. They react. They interpret the stillness as unimportant. They confuse peace with safety, and they mistake delay for escape. But spiritual laws are not like human routines. What you do not respond to with discipline, you will face later with regret. That is the law. When a warning is given, when God allows a whisper to reach your spirit, it is not a moment to wait and wonder. It is a call to prepare. But preparation is a foreign concept to the undisciplined. The undisciplined crave comfort. They are addicted to motion, to emotion, to validation. They interpret a warning as fear-mongering, and they run to distractions instead of truth. When a teacher speaks, they scroll. When a storm brews, they sleep. When the soul feels the pull to change, they negotiate instead of surrendering. And this is why, when transformation arrives, they panic, because they never truly believed it would come. They heard the words, but did not carry them in their bones. They were too busy to notice, too distracted to feel, too proud to bow. So when the moment comes, when the shift happens before June ends, they will not be ready, not because the divine did not warn them, but because they ignored every moment they were given to prepare. On the other path, walk the disciplined. The disciplined do not wait to be told twice. The disciplined do not live according to emotions. The disciplined do not seek excitement, they seek alignment. The moment the whisper is heard, the disciplined adjust. When the body feels restlessness, they sit and listen. When a teaching resonates, they write it down, reflect, and embody it. When a lesson repeats itself, they stop blaming the world and start refining the self. This is not because they are better, it is because they have suffered. They have learned that the price of ignoring inner truth is far greater than the discomfort of preparation. So they move in silence. They remove what weakens them. They examine what they consume. They reduce noise and increase presence. They train their mind like a sword, sharp, still, and steady. When others ask, "What are you preparing for?" the disciplined answer, "For the moment that finds most people sleeping." This is the separation that will occur before June is over. Not a separation of people, but of readiness. The undisciplined will panic. The disciplined will prepare. Not because one is favored by God, but because one chose to listen. The path of the disciplined is not easy. It is filled with solitude. It is a quiet walk. While the world chases success, they chase stillness. While others seek validation, they seek truth. And while the undisciplined spend their time complaining about circumstances, the disciplined are shaping themselves into the kind of person who can endure any circumstance with grace. To prepare is not to be afraid. It is to respect time. It is to recognize that life is sacred and opportunities are fleeting. It is to understand that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So the disciplined prepare not only for the storm, they prepare for every sunrise, every meal, every word they speak. They prepare through intention. They prepare by living in alignment with their values, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. If something is to occur before June is over, and if the divine has allowed you to feel that something is coming, then this is not a time to guess or delay. This is a time to eliminate what steals your energy. This is a time to ask hard questions. Who am I when no one is looking? Where is my attention flowing? What am I giving my time to? If a storm arrived today, would I fall apart or stand strong? The disciplined do not need answers from the sky. They do not demand signs. They already know that every breath is a chance to prepare, that every challenge is a disguised training ground, that every moment is sacred. The undisciplined, however, will wait for confirmation. They need external validation before they move. They need someone to tell them what to do. They need the storm to be visible before they react. But by then, it will be too late. Preparation is not something you do when the storm arrives. It is what you live by before the clouds gather. Once the storm begins, there is no more time to prepare, only time to act. And how you act is a reflection of how you have lived up until that moment. So you see, the great difference between people is not intelligence. It is not background. It is not knowledge. It is discipline. It is the ability to do what must be done before you are forced to do it. The undisciplined wait until consequences force them to change. The disciplined change because they understand the rhythm of life. They recognize when the energy shifts. They listen to their intuition. They train for what others pretend will never arrive. To live without discipline is to gamble with your future. It is to hope that luck will save you when preparation could have. It is to expect that a good heart is enough to withstand the weight of an untrained mind. It is to walk into the forest without a compass, hoping you will not get lost. The undisciplined hope, the disciplined build. And what must be built now is not external, not a house, not a business, not a status. What must be built is internal. Inner calm, inner control, inner strength. These are the tools that will serve you when June ends and the storm has arrived. When people panic, it is not because the world is falling apart. It is because their inner world was already fragile. When you have not trained your mind, even small problems feel like disasters. But when you have trained your mind, even great disruptions become manageable. So now is the moment. Not when the event begins, not when the change takes form. Now, in the stillness, in the ordinary. What you do now will determine who you are when the month ends. How you think, how you act, what you choose to focus on. These are the seeds. And when the rain comes, what you have planted will either nourish you or haunt you. The disciplined understand this law. That is why they do not wait. They do not rely on motivation. They train without emotion. They practice regardless of applause. They let go of what drains them. They focus on what builds them. And they do it every day, even when they feel nothing is changing. Because they know, deep within, that the invisible transformation is always happening before the visible arrives. The time for comfort is over. The time for delay is over. You are not here to wander through another month repeating the past. You are not here to carry the same weakness into the next chapter. If God has whispered to your heart that something will happen before June is over, then do not ask for more time. Ask for more discipline. Ask for the courage to prepare, even when you don't know what exactly is coming. Because real preparation is not about details. It is about foundation. Build your foundation now. Strengthen your routines. Cleanse your space. Sharpen your thoughts. Feed your spirit. Speak with honesty. Move with grace. And stop explaining yourself to those who do not understand your silence. You do not need permission to grow. You need presence. You need consistency. And you need the humility to accept that discipline is your teacher, not your enemy. Yes, you will be tempted. You will be tempted to ignore this, to continue as usual, to wait until you feel ready. But the truth is, readiness does not come from waiting. It comes from preparing. Waiting builds weakness. Preparation builds wisdom. The choice is always yours. The outcome, however, is not. When the day comes, when the transformation arrives, you will not have time to learn calmness. You will need to be calm. You will not have time to practice letting go. You will need to release instantly. You will not have time to create boundaries. You will need to enforce them with power. These things must be trained now, in the silence, in the ordinary, in the shadows, where only your spirit watches. And this is why the disciplined are never truly surprised, not because they predict the future, but because they live prepared for it. They do not know exactly what is coming, but they know what kind of person they must be to meet it. And they train every day to become that person. So look at yourself without excuses, without delay, without emotion. Are you preparing or are you procrastinating? Are you walking the path or just talking about it? Are you hoping or are you training? Before June ends, something will shift. Maybe in your world, maybe in your mind, maybe in your spirit. but the result will not be random. It will reflect how you live these final days. The warning was given, the whisper has arrived, the wind is rising, and now the only question is, will you panic or will you prepare? There is a moment in every seeker's life when the path begins to narrow, not physically, but spiritually. At first the journey begins wide, many voices, many options, many companions walking beside you. There is excitement in the beginning. The teachings are fresh, the changes are dramatic, the progress is visible. You feel supported by others who are walking similar roads. But then something starts to happen. The deeper you go, the fewer people understand you. The more silent you become, the more isolated you feel. The further you progress, the more intense the inner demands become. This is the narrowing of the path, and it is not a punishment. It is a sacred sign. There is no wide gate to mastery, no crowded highway to spiritual awakening. The deeper truths are not found where everyone is looking. They are revealed in solitude, in discomfort, in uncertainty. The path narrows to protect what is sacred. It narrows to show you who is truly walking and who is only wandering. It narrows so that what is false can no longer walk with you, and when it narrows, the undisciplined turn back, but the courageous move forward. Before June is over, this narrowing will intensify. You may feel it already. Old habits suddenly feel unbearable. Old conversations drain your energy faster than ever. Certain people you once resonated with now feel foreign. Places that once gave you joy now make you restless. This is not something wrong. This is not an error. This is the echo of your growth. It is your spirit shedding the unnecessary, the soul preparing you for the threshold. The divine closing doors so you no longer hide in rooms that were too small for your destiny. But this narrowing is not comfortable. It requires courage. Courage to be misunderstood. Courage to be alone. Courage to let go of what once made you feel safe. The path will not always offer applause. It will not always provide company. It will not always be filled with signs that you are on the right track. Sometimes the silence is the sign. Sometimes the loneliness is the proof. Sometimes the absence of support is the exact pressure that builds your inner power. People often ask, how do I know I'm growing? The answer is not in how many people agree with you. It's not in how many followers you have or how much validation you receive. Growth shows up in how much you're willing to lose for truth. It shows up in how much silence you can sit in without reaching for a distraction. It shows up in how deeply you trust your path, even when the road is empty. And that is the essence of this moment. What is coming before the end of this month is not a grand announcement. It is not a visible explosion. It is a shift that only those walking the narrow path will fully feel. It is a moment that separates the talkers from the doers, the believers from the seekers, the spiritual tourists from the silent warriors. You do not need to fear it, but you must not ignore it, because once the path narrows, going back is not an option. What once fit in your life no longer belongs there. What once made sense now feels heavy. You cannot force the past into the present without suffering. To walk the narrowing path, you must become light. You must release the baggage of overthinking. You must surrender the masks you wore to please others. You must let go of the need to explain your decisions to those who don't see your vision. This is not about arrogance. This is about alignment. There is a voice inside you that is getting clearer, a direction that is calling you with more urgency. You cannot walk that way and carry everyone's expectations. You cannot climb the mountain and hold on to every opinion. And this is the test. Not everyone will understand your silence. Not everyone will applaud your discipline. Not everyone will accept your transformation. Some will try to pull you back to who you used to be, not because they are evil, but because your growth threatens their comfort. And this is where courage is required. Not the courage to fight them, but the courage to keep walking with compassion, the courage to bless them and continue on your path, the courage to trust that what you are becoming is more important than who you used to be. There is a loneliness to transformation that no one talks about. There is an ache in becoming that no book can prepare you for. But this ache is holy. It is the dissolving of illusions. It is the pruning of what is false. It is the refinement of your spirit. And it is only those who have the courage to stay in that fire that come out forged, focused, and free. As the path narrows, you will notice your senses becoming sharper. You will no longer tolerate confusion. You will no longer entertain lies. You will begin to see things others do not. You will begin to hear what others ignore. Your life will become quieter but more meaningful, smaller in noise but deeper in purpose. This is not regression. This is realignment, and it is preparing you for what is ahead. Because what God is allowing before June ends is not random. It is a divine shift, a spiritual tightening, a moment that demands full attention. The undisciplined will see it as unnecessary. They will say, "Why make things so difficult?" But the courageous will know that the path is not becoming harder. It is becoming honest. It is no longer allowing you to pretend. And in that honesty, there is a strength that no comfort could ever offer. If your life feels like it's being stripped down, reduced, quieted, or narrowed, it is not a loss, it is a purification. You are being made ready. You are being asked to walk without the crutches, to stand without the noise, to trust what cannot yet be seen. The reward is not in what you gain, but in who you become. You will be stronger. You will be clearer. You will be untouchable by chaos, not because life gets easier, but because your inner world gets quieter. Every master was once a student who refused to quit when the path got narrow. Every peaceful soul was once a restless spirit who chose stillness over stimulation. Every disciplined person was once addicted to distraction, but chose to change. So what will you choose now, in these final days? Will you panic as the path narrows? Or will you honor it with your full presence? The narrowing is sacred. It is the moment of decision. It is the divine reducing your options so that you finally choose what matters. It is a gift in disguise, a blessing without a bow, a doorway that only opens when you are alone, without pretense and full of humility. So keep walking. Even if your legs are tired, even if your mind is full of questions, even if your heart misses what you had to leave behind. The path ahead may be narrow, but it leads to vastness. It leads to depth. It leads to a peace that cannot be bought, taught, or taken. Walk it with courage, walk it with trust, and walk it knowing that this silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of something greater. Human beings are fascinated with endings. We mark them with emotions, with rituals, with fear, with relief. We look at the calendar and see dates as deadlines. We look at months as containers for closure. But the spiritual path does not recognize such boundaries. The deeper truth is that what you think is ending is often only transforming. The energy does not disappear. The lessons do not dissolve. The path does not stop. Time moves forward, and so does your soul. And when God allows a shift to arrive at the end of something, it is not to finish you. It is to forge you. The final days of June, therefore, are not the closing of a chapter. They are the turning of a key. A door is about to open. But whether you walk through it in clarity or confusion depends on what you have cultivated inside yourself up until now. There is a false belief that change announces itself with drama, that beginnings come with fanfare. But in the reality of inner evolution, beginnings often come in silence. You may not even realize what has started until much later. A new mindset, a new level of discipline, a new detachment from old patterns. These are the true beginnings. They don't arrive with fireworks. They arrive quietly, in the stillness of your own awakening. This is why the final days of any cycle are sacred. They hold the threshold. And thresholds are dangerous places for the unprepared. When people hear that something is coming before June ends, they expect something to end with it. But what is coming may not be an ending. It may be a challenge. It may be an opportunity that looks like a burden. It may be a test disguised as silence. It may be clarity disguised as loss. And those who are obsessed with closure will miss the opening. Those who are looking for completion will miss the invitation, because this moment is not about finishing something. It is about stepping into a deeper version of yourself. But stepping into something new requires letting go of what you carried through the old. The untrained mind resists this. It clings to the known. It holds on to the identity that was built in fear. It prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. That is why transformation feels like death to the ego, because something must be surrendered, something must be released, something must be stripped away so that something stronger, something simpler, something more aligned can rise in its place. The disciplined know this. They do not fear the end of the month. They do not beg for more time. They recognize that the beginning they are entering will only serve them if they have prepared properly, and preparation in the final days looks like purification, not addition but subtraction, not striving but simplifying. This is not the time to take on more. This is the time to remove what no longer fits. Ideas, habits, even relationships that cannot survive in the higher frequency of your next phase must be released. Not with resentment, but with reverence. Because they served their purpose, they brought you here, but they cannot go with you beyond this point. Beginnings are costly. They require energy, focus, and space. You cannot carry old weight into a new season and expect lightness. You cannot drag unexamined wounds into sacred spaces and expect peace. The beginning that is coming for you before June ends is not just a shift in time. It is a shift in identity. You will be called to respond to things differently. You will be asked to show restraint where you once reacted. You will be required to take ownership of your thoughts. You will be placed in situations that force your clarity to become action. And if you have not trained for this, it will feel overwhelming. But if you have trained, if you have sat in silence, if you have studied your triggers, if you have been honest with your emotions, then what comes next will not crush you. It will reveal you. Because this is the moment when God does not just test your memory of wisdom, He tests your embodiment of it. Can you live what you claim to know? Can you act with integrity even when no one is watching? Can you remain calm when the environment becomes chaotic? Can you stay silent when your ego demands to be heard? This is the real exam, and it will not wait for you to be comfortable. Many people will assume that when June ends, something outside of them will shift. But for those who are walking this path with awareness, the real shift is inside. It is the realization that nothing around you can change until something within you becomes unshakable. You are not waiting for the world to adjust. You are training to meet the world with unmovable presence. The beginning that is arriving does not need your predictions. It needs your presence. It does not require your opinions. It requires your stillness. It does not care how much you know. It cares how well you move. With grace, with clarity, with the poise of someone who no longer reacts to everything they feel. This is the fruit of true discipline. To not be controlled by the mind, but to use it like a tool. To not be carried by emotion, but to guide it with awareness. To not be enslaved by time, but to master the moment. You see, many people talk about transformation, but they only desire the results, not the responsibility. They want peace without stillness, power without humility, growth without discomfort. But beginnings are forged in the fire of discomfort. And if you truly want what is on the other side of this transition, you must be willing to walk through that fire without turning back. The final days are asking you to prove something, not to the world but to yourself. They are asking you, did you learn the lesson or just memorize the words? They are asking you, are you living with intention or are you drifting again? They are asking you, can you honor this moment even if no one claps for you? Because this next phase is not about being seen, it is about being real. And realness on the spiritual path is rare. It is earned through humility, honesty, and relentless discipline. There is no more room for pretending, no more time for halfway healing, no more space for blaming. You are being asked to step into full responsibility. You are being asked to carry your own soul, to guard your energy like sacred flame, to speak only what you mean, to mean only what is true. This is the posture that opens the door. This is the key to the beginning you are being prepared for. And yes, it will come quietly. It may look like nothing has changed, but the changes will be revealed in how you respond to life, in how you hold your peace, in how you move through uncertainty without losing your center. The beginning is not loud. It is subtle. It is sacred. And only those who have cultivated stillness will recognize its arrival. So these final days, treat them with reverence. Treat them as sacred ground. Slow down. Reflect, forgive, release, train, listen. Do not waste this window of preparation hoping for a sign. You are the sign. Your readiness is the signal. And once this threshold is crossed, the time for reflection ends. The time for action begins. You will either enter the next season as the version of yourself that was created by discipline, or you will drag forward the self that was shaped by delay. That is the choice. That is the separation. That is the point of this divine warning. And in that truth lies the gift. The beginning is not being forced upon you. It is being offered to you. Whether you walk into it prepared is not up to fate. It is up to the practice you keep when no one is watching. So let these last days be your training ground. Let them be your proving ground. Let them refine you, humble you, awaken you. Because what is coming is not the end. It is the beginning.